Joining us now on Sports Talk ATL, Mark Zinno. Welcome back, Mark. Thanks so much for joining us.
Guys, always great to be with you. I know there's a lot to talk about. I'm a little offended I didn't get a polo sent to me. I would have liked the Sports Talk ATL background, some sort of green screen. I felt like I was part of the family, and now that circle of trust, I'm on the outside looking in. Me and Greg Fokker are on the outside.
It's broken, but I guarantee you we will do our best to make it fix. So let's get into the NFL draft. I know we're going to talk about Hawks. I know you got some
medium, by the way, extra medium on the size.
Extra medium. Yeah. And those things are going to be popping out. Those biceps are going to be popping out if we do that. We do have a younger audience sometimes, Mark. We can't be doing that.
Yeah, family show.
I understand. Got it. Thank you.
All right, NFL draft. I'm going to straight up just come up and ask you, if you're the Atlanta Falcons, right, who would you take? Not what they're going to do. Who would you take? Who do you think's the right pick? Is it Dallas Turner? Do they fix the defense? Do they trade back? Is it best player available, wide receiver? I know you're very anti-quarterback after signing Kirk Cousins. Who would you take with the 8th overall pick if you put your GM hat on?
I mean, it should be best player available. I wouldn't overdraft Dallas Turner. If you don't think he's that high on the board, don't do it. Now, when I head to the Falcons press conference, which is tomorrow, the pre-draft press conference, the question I will ask both Terry Fontenot and Raheem Morris is, not that I'm necessarily against it, but you understand the optics for the fan base if you draft a pass catcher at number 8 for the 3rd year in a row. Like, that will send this place into an absolute frenzy, even if it is the right pick and the right play. So I think you just stick with best player available. I am against drafting a quarterback because, look, we have gotten to a point in the NFL. There is only one proper philosophy for drafting a quarterback. And the philosophy is this. You move up and move heaven and earth or get as high as you can to absolutely take the quarterback at the first possible chance. There's no such thing as a good quarterback falling to you. That's just luck. And you don't want to enter into your draft strategy with, let's hope to get lucky. That's how GMs get fired. So if you're not taking a quarterback in the top 40 or 50 picks, right? Like within the first round or early in the second round, then you don't need to take one until the 7th. Period. You don't. Because anything other than that is a waste. You're drafting him with the intent to be a backup. And if anybody learned this as well, it is the Atlanta Falcons. Because guess what? Desmond Ridder sucks. And that's what happens when you draft 3rd-round quarterbacks. They suck. Okay? So Russell Wilson and Tom Brady being the lone outliers, you don't need a quarterback. And you don't need one in the first round because first-round quarterbacks do what, guys? Start immediately. Period. Well, Patrick Mahomes said, stop. The game has changed. The game has absolutely changed. Your first-round quarterback plays immediately. That's the end of the conversation. So that's why I'm philosophically against it. Now, if you wanted to draft a quarterback at 8, go ahead and do it, but you better play him. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to draft a quarterback at 8. So that's why I'm against it. I'll throw this one to you. And I don't know if you guys saw this. I put this out on social media because if we're talking about best player available, right? There's an argument to say the best player at his specific position in this draft is Marvin Harrison Jr. You got it. Yeah, okay. So I think you did see this, but
yeah.
Look, imagine this, a world happens where we get quarterbacks going 1, 2, 3, and 4. If I'm the Falcons, and I do believe that Marvin Harrison is the best player in this draft. I think he's a better wide receiver than Caleb Williams as a quarterback. I think he's a better defensive end than Dallas Turner is, a better wide receiver than Dallas Turner is a defensive end, that sort of mentality. And I think he's probably one of the surest things you can get as far as a hit is concerned. And, oh, by the way, look what Kirk Cousins has done for receivers of that caliber when they come out of college, what he did in Minnesota. And you actually have a void at wide receiver. You need some more depth there. I would not be opposed moving up 3 spots to go get Marvin Harrison Jr. at 5. Like, that to me is crafty. If you did it with Julio Jones and you got a Hall of Famer out of it and it worked and it got you to a Super Bowl, I mean, if you want to play it again, I don't think that's a bad draft philosophy because you're getting the best player available and you only got to move 3 spots to do it, which means you don't have to mortgage the farm. I know the fan base hates that concept because you're taking a pass catcher again, guys. But to me, that's crafty drafting. That's smart. That's shrewd because you're going to get the best player available at that point in time.
I don't disagree with you. I think, where my big concern comes with is the Falcons, they did what they do every year where they kind of, half butt their way through free agency and just fill voids willy-nilly with 1-year free agent guys who are pretty much just depth pieces. They're not actual game changers. And there's still clear holes along the defensive line, particularly the edge group, the cornerback room. Both of those units need starting caliber players. So while I do agree with you, and though I do think you should just go best player available, whether it's Rome Odunze, if Malik Neighbors falls, if you think Marvin Harrison is worth trading up, I'm all for that. Because like you said, their wide receiver is probably number 3 on the totem pole in terms of roster needs, is how I see it. And I'm perfectly fine with that, except now you got to go and either one, hope to find an immediate contributor in round 2, which is generally speaking pretty difficult to do, especially at those 2 positions, cornerback and edge rusher, or dip back into free agency where the talent is pretty slim. Like, why didn't we go and address the needs immediately in free agency? And obviously we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Maybe they tried. I just think that, like, it's win now with Kirk Cousins, and that's your whole point with the quarterback thing is, and I completely agree, this defense looks a lot like Matt Ryan's defense right now, where we're going to lose 45-42. And I also agree with, like, you know, the mentality of just selecting the best player available, because you don't want to reach for a guy like Dallas Turner. I completely agree with you, and I'm not arguing for taking a defender. I'm just criticizing the overall offseason of, like, what the hell are we doing, guys?
I think they've had a great offseason. I don't know how you can.
We haven't signed one defender that is worth a damn.
Look, it's an
acquired.
It's an offensive league. Lean into the offense. Like last year's. Look, you're getting upset about it, but, like, if you're going to go all in, you can really go all in on one side of the ball. Like you can't do it both. There's not enough cap room. There's not enough talent. And you've already got a huge leg up offensively. So why not lean into it more and be a top 5 offense and worry about the postseason when it gets there? Who knows how the rest of the season is going to unfold from a defensive standpoint? You know, I mean, I look at it and I go, one defensive player does not solve the whole defense. Like, there is this misperception from Falcons fans. We get an edge rusher, all of a sudden we're in. Like,
Couldn't agree more. White
Lions got Aiden Hutchinson, who may be one of the top 7 defensive ends in the league at this point in time. Their defense still sucked last year. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah. They're still all in on offense, and that's how they won games. Like, getting one edge rusher.
But to win postseason games, there comes a point in time where a defense is going to have to step up, whether it's in the last 2 minutes of a football game. Having a guy, one singular guy, and I agree with you, and I've been saying this all offseason, that Dallas Turner, Latu, Jared Verse, any of those guys isn't going to fix the Falcons pass rush. And that's why I'm still like, why didn't we sign a proven commodity? We're not even running it back.
Because you had to pay the quarterback. Like, that was you couldn't not take the best quarterback and the best free agent.
If we're in win now mode, it's time to maybe start sacrificing future salary caps for present day viability.
I don't disagree with that. But however, there is a sense of, hey, you got to get the first priority done before you do the second priority. And by the time the second priority was available and getting the first one done, your pickings got pretty slim pretty quick. So you had to pivot. I mean, I don't. What defensive player was available in free agency? I may be drawing a blank here that they could have.
Well, we don't know what was going on behind the scenes, per se, but there's been plenty of guys, Daniil Hunter. I don't know.
Yeah, true. I mean,
I don't know what was going on past that. The Falcons could have easily afforded a 2-year, $50 million deal, rearranging some money.
I don't disagree with you. Let me ask you this much, though. If the defense last year wasn't really the problem, and there wasn't really a ton of big name players,
they gave up. I mean, the Titans lost. There's several losses that were.
But the Titans loss also came with a bunch of turnovers from a guy who didn't know what color jersey to throw the ball to. So, I mean, I want to just put it in perspective. Like, I understand what you're saying, but on the whole, in the macro, their defense was not bad last year, and they didn't have a ton of players. If their offense is now, dare we say, 3, 4, 5 points better per game than it was last year, then I kind of can live with where we are defensively. And look, pass rushing becomes a lot easier when you're up by 2 scores the whole game, right? Like, it just your defense gets better when your other teams are always chasing. So, I mean, is that the philosophy? Yeah. Does it have to work? Yes. Is there a slim room? Is there a small margin for error for it to work? Yes, there is. Because if
we watched a decade of this not work with Matt Ryan.
Hold on a second. You watch a decade of it not win a Super Bowl.
Not win a Super Bowl. That's the goal. That's always the goal.
There's like, let's just conservatively say 15, 18 other teams that have gone the same decade with the same results that didn't make the playoffs as often as the Falcons did. Like, step one is be a perennial playoff contender, and you're going to get there now. At least for the next 2 to 3, 4 years, as long as Cousins hangs around, you're going to be a playoff team, and you're going to win divisions.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't said much this entire segment, but I will say I am pro. Just go get the offense.
Sorry.
I mean, I'm pro Malik Neighbors. I probably talked about this guy more on this show than anybody in the history of any show ever talked about Malik Neighbors, unless it's completely LSU related. But I am pro going all in on the offense. I know you didn't win a Super Bowl with Matt Ryan, but in 2012, you were up 24-7 in the NFC Championship. You blow that. You blow the Super Bowl that you should have won if you have a coach that just doesn't make some of the dumbest decisions in the history of this league. So, yes, they were always in the conversation, and there were other close games. I mean, if you even go back to 2017, we lose on 4th down to the Eagles, who win the Super Bowl. So there were several chances where we could have won a Super Bowl, and that's really all you can ask. And I think as much as the defense does sucks, like you said, it ain't going to get better with one pass rusher. And you know what will get better? If you put Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze, or like you prefer Marvin Harrison, I don't care. I think all three of them are going to be great. You put them in that offense with Kirk Cousins, and he's healthy behind that offensive line. Nobody is stopping you.
Aren't we more worried about the loss of Ryan Nielsen than anything else?
Yeah, I'm telling you, we're preaching the same thing, and I do think we're not even sticking with the status quo on defense. That's what I'm saying. This defense was average. Ryan Nielsen's gone. You cannot just expect Jimmy Lake to move in seamlessly. Ryan Nielsen is a hell of a defensive coordinator, and both of our sack leaders from a year ago are gone. We're not even sticking with the status quo. We are actively getting worse. Personnel wise, I
can't say your assessment is wrong. I don't know if I 100% agree with it, but I don't think you're totally off base with what you're saying. There's a lot of changes on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, and Raheem Morris is going from coordinating a defense that had Aaron Donald on it to coordinating a defense that has Donald Aaron on it, and that's nowhere near the same player. So, there's going to be some changes, but I believe that more than anything, that if the offense and the quarterback are fixed, it covers up a lot of other warts.
I think you're right. And I do think you're right. And it's nice to have these conversations where we're not just talking about making the postseason. We're talking about success in the postseason, playoff success. And that's a fun conversation to have because we haven't had that. And you're absolutely right. With Kirk Cousins in the fold, our expectations, our arguments, our conversations are completely changed. Our perspective is completely changed. And that's why we need this defense is not championship caliber. And whether you or I believe this team is a Super Bowl caliber team, they believe they're a Super Bowl caliber team by giving Kirk Cousins $100 million guaranteed. This defense is not good enough to support Kirk Cousins in a way. Kirk Cousins can get you to the postseason, but eventually he's going to have some help. He's not Patrick Mahomes. He cannot do it himself. He's going to need help. And if our goal is to get to the top of the mountain, it's not any longer just a postseason berth. Something's got to change.
No, look, but again, we're having multiple conversations at the same time here.
Yeah.
That while all relevant, they have to be put in context. I mean, look, you won 7 games each of the last 3 years, and you missed the postseason. So step one is winning the division, getting to the postseason. I feel like that's taken care. That's the standard now. Raheem Morris should not get a pass in year one.
No.
Absolutely should not get a pass in year one for anything. So if they don't win the division and do so with at least 10 wins, because 9-8 and getting in on this by the skin of the hair of your ass is not acceptable. Yeah. They need to win this division, by week 16 and be done with it and have a week off or week 17 rather, have a week off in week 18 kind of deal. So that's the standard. That's the bar that they have to clear. From there, now we have to have a conversation. Do you have to win your first home playoff game? Well, it's hard to say that. I don't know who it's going to be against. I don't know what the other team's going to look like. But the expectation is you have a home playoff game. You should win it. So, to think that we would be beyond one and done, I think is fair. To bridge the gap between winning one playoff game and winning a Super Bowl, in one hand, it could be really small. On the other hand, it could be a huge chasm that is really hard to bridge because you need to get some luck. You need to get some luck of the draw, get some favorable opponents. I mean, again, go back to people want to have revisionist history. Go back to the Bengals, and we're going to say the same thing about. I'm going to say the same thing about the Bengals in a year or two that we said about the Atlanta Hawks making the Eastern Conference Finals. That the Bengals making the Super Bowl might have been the worst thing for them because they might never even get that close again. In reality, they may not because that playoff run was 3 games they should have never won. They shouldn't have beat the Raiders. They got help from the officials on a touchdown that was called back and a non-PI to tie the game at the end. They got sacked 9 times, and the idiot kicker from the Titans missed 4 freaking field goals in a game they should have never won. And then they caught Patrick Mahomes having the worst half of football in his professional career in the AFC Championship game. Like, they didn't belong in that converson.
Talking to the wrong guys.
I was at that game, Mark. I was at that AFC Championship game where Joe Burrow. We're Joe Burrow. Yes, I was rocking the Joe Burrow Bengals in Arrowhead. Not as loud as an SEC stadium, by the way. Don't let them tell you that it's as loud as an SEC stadium. But it was a great atmosphere. It was a great comeback because I'm so used to teams that I'm cheering for blowing leads like that. It was nice. It was nice to be on the other side. And yes, I agree. That Bengals defense stood on their head. Really, Joe Burrow got a lot of credit for that, but it was a lot of Bengals defense stepping up and shutting Mahomes out for that entire half. And I do agree. I mean, they did get the AFC Championship, but now Joe Burrow's dealt with injuries. We'll see about them. But it's interesting with the Falcons. I'm excited, really excited for this 8th overall pick. It gives you a little bit of hope, and hopefully they can get it right. We do got to go to break. We're going to talk about from one dysfunctional organization to a much more dysfunctional organization in the Atlanta Hawks. Trae Young, DeJounte Murray. One's getting traded. Who is it going to be?